To the Freeman Center for Digital Scholarship, which is also in the Kelvin Smith Library here at Case Western Reserve University. And I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice Provost and Lenzeth Family University Librarian here at Case. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you being here. We are today partnering with the Veale Institute for Entrepreneurship, here with my colleague, Michael Goldberg. And we are going to have a speaker series here today. And let me say what it is. Our talk today is leading a commercially successful company with a social mission, which is Overdrive, a company that provides technology for managing and distributing digital content, with our speakers, Loree and Steve Potash. I want to thank, it takes a lot of time to put things like this together, so I want to thank KSL, I want to thank the Veale Institute staff, and also development for helping us with this. We like to think of Kelvin Smith Library as the knowledge and creativity commons of the university, where we provide expertise and resources and equipment and services and spaces to advance the success of our faculty and students in research, teaching, and learning. And I think what better place to have something that has to do with digital innovation than here in the library. The other good reason for doing it is because Loree Potash is a alumna of the library science program here at Case, so it makes total sense for you all to be here. So you can hear more about our speakers. I'm going to hand this over to Michael Goldberg.
Great. Thank you, Yolanda. I want to say thank you to Yolanda and the KSL team for partnering. The Veale Institute, which was created about 3 years ago with a grant from the Veale Foundation, works across campus. So actually, Yolanda and I both report into our provost. We get to spend every Monday morning together in a meeting. And we've been looking for ways to come together and do programming together. So many of our entrepreneurs on campus are taking advantage of the resources at the library. Topics like innovation and AI and machine learning and research are things where there's tremendous intersection. So Yolanda, thank you for partnering with us today. The Veale Institute, actually, we're doing a number of different events. One thing that we're working on right now, Steve, we were talking before about some of the early stage investing that you're doing. We just launched a new alumni fund, which we're investing in startups that are either started by alums or spun out of the universities. That's a new activity that we're working on. And we do a bunch of other things on campus, including Kiet Nguyen is here. Go Kiet is in our Veale Snyder Entrepreneurship Fellows program. We have programs with faculty, and we also partner very closely with our friends at the Fowler Center for Businesses Agent of World Benefit. And we had some breaking news that I was going to read, but Megan Buchter, who's my great friend and colleague at Weatherhead, was going to share the news about Overdrive and Aim to Flourish. So over to you, Megan.
Thank you very much, Michael. So like Michael said, my name is Megan Buchter. I'm the director of the Fowler Center for Business as an Agent of World Benefit here at Case Western Reserve University. And one of our biggest programs at the Fowler Center is called Aim to Flourish. And Aim to Flourish is a globally used program that helps teach students about the ways that business can make a positive impact in the world. And it does this by having students seek out positive businesses and social entrepreneurs and conduct interviews of people at those companies and then write up stories about those companies, which we share on our aimtoflourish.com website then. And so as part of this program, every year we look at all of the stories published in the previous calendar year. And after an evaluation process and reviewing those stories, we then announce our finalists for our Flourish Prizes. We end up awarding 17 Flourish Prizes, one for each of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this morning we just announced our 78 finalists for our 2023 Flourish Prizes, and Overdrive is on that list. So last year you interviewed with a student who wrote a story about your company, and we're just super excited to announce that your story has been shortlisted for this prize, which we will announce in late May, early June. So congratulations to Overdrive.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Michael.
Great coincidence. Good timing.
I hope it's not a work of fiction.
It's a great story.
Oh,
Great. So now on to the show. We've had this speaker series for 3 years. We're so thrilled to welcome Steve and Loree today into conversation. All of our events are moderated by students. TC, who's a grad student, PhD student in my same department, as I learned, we were in our department assistant's office the other day, is going to moderate. We'll sort of do 30 minutes of questions that TC is going to run, and then our audience here, we want to hear from you, whether you're here with us at KSL, whether you're on Zoom, if you're on LinkedIn Live. We want this to be interactive. So with that, TC, over to you to get things going. And Steve and Loree, welcome to CASE. We're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. Is the mic working? Yeah? Good. Yeah. Perfect. Well, welcome. And I was told by one of my friend librarians to say welcome to KSL, which is one of 127 research level libraries, which we thought you'd appreciate, Loree. So to start off this conversation, I was hoping that you guys could introduce yourselves so that everyone would be sort of aware generally of your backgrounds and then why you're here, and then I'll go into more details.
I'll start then, thank you. First, thank you, Yolanda, for the beautiful tour of this fabulous facility. I guess coming before finals is a real good look for how all the resources and all the hub of activity, and of course, Michael, we're delighted to be part of this program. So I'm Steve Potash, and along with my girlfriend, Loree, we're both born and raised here in Cleveland and went through public schools, and you'll hear a little bit more about Loree's journey that includes a lot of time here on campus. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, and so born and raised here. I think when we talk a little bit about the journey, we'll give you some bits and pieces. Together, we have created a company and an industry, really, that we're very proud of. And it was thanks, really, to the guidance and direction of librarians sitting in downtown Cleveland. It was in the basement of the Cleveland Public Library that the science project took off that today serves over 88,000 schools, universities, public libraries worldwide. And so as an entrepreneur, it's pretty gratifying. So we do a lot of good work in the library, so it's a very appropriate fitting a place for us to have this chat. Well.
And I want to also thank Yolanda for the wonderful tour. Last time I was here, the library looked a little bit different, and Michael as well for inviting us. I'm a lifelong Clevelander, graduated from The Ohio State University. I received my master's in library science from the Case Western Reserve School of Library Science. After graduation, I was employed as a catalog librarian at the Case Western Reserve School of Law. Through the mentoring of Simon Gorin, the director there, and the other staff and faculty, I was able to become interim director of the library. While I was working at the library, I did go to law school in the evenings, as well as with Steve, and he ended up starting his own law practice, and I was working at the library. I then started working with Overdrive, and we founded the company. I have three adult children and 7 grandchildren here in Cleveland.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So Loree, as you mentioned, you graduated from the, let me check, the Library Sciences Master's Program.
Right.
And we were wondering, how did that training influence the launch of Overdrive, like kind of the birth story of Overdrive, since you have that background?
Well, as you heard, that Overdrive delivers electronic books, e-books, audiobooks to libraries and schools, as well as other institutions. I did receive it was a master's of library science, not information science at the time, from Case Western Reserve. During my tenure as a law librarian, I also taught Westlaw and Lexis, and at the time we were hardwired to the servers, and we were using different computers for different research. When Steve started his law practice, he was a little overwhelmed by all the books and forms and rules, and we were thinking there must be a better way to access this information. And we started getting involved in digitizing forum books as well as law books. And then we sort of thought that this would be a good thing to make available to others as well.
Awesome. And then is there anything else about sort of the start of Overdrive? And could you take us sort of on the journey of that initial kernel of an idea and how it grew?
Well, we started out basically with law books on diskette and working with Westlaw Publishing as well as others. And then we sort of segued and said, well, if we can work with law book companies, we can also work with accounting, tax, and we are very much in the sort of professional space. Then we did segue into working with the publishers of more popular material, and
well, these are one of the stories where we were in the 80s, 20 years too early.
Yeah.
We envisioned that one day every book would be available on the screen. And when you were putting them on floppy diskettes with DOS 1.0, predating some of your students here, I believe, it was very early. But we realized that we could partner with those book publishers who own the intellectual property and the content. We could focus on the technology to make access to those books more accessible. And one thing led to another. As Loree said, we started with law books as an outgrowth of her experience as a law librarian and teaching online research and electronic online legal databases. So we took that experience that she had from her library science and practice here on campus, and we went to West Publishing, and that was the beginning of a business model that exists today at Overdrive. At the heart of our business, we are trusted digital distributors and aggregators of all the books in the world. What started with law books and went to tax and accounting. When this thing called CD-ROM came out, we go, now we're talking. We could do color, we could do pictures, we could put on video clips for those who can remember the Encarta days of CD-ROM.
search.
Late 80s, early 90s, we were making CD-ROMs for almost every college textbook publisher, because if you were a student in the 90s, your college textbook had a supplemental CD in the back. And that's the way that the McGraws and the Wileys and the Pearsons could get their textbook adopted with the supplemental content. So eventually I said, Loree, I need you at Overdrive. And so she left the law library, and we were, as young entrepreneurs, still maintaining a law practice because we didn't know if this software thing was, who knew? We always had to have a plan B, right? Starting our family. But one thing led to another. So we got into the CD-ROM service industry, and after doing education and professional, we started going to the popular New York Times best-selling publishers and saying, one day, again, way too early, John Grisham and Michael Crichton and Janet Ivanovich, and every book that anybody could want should be instantly available anytime, anywhere. And so from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, we were fortunate enough to get a call from Bill Gates and said, we're thinking about introducing a new platform for software called Office, and we want to talk to you about how we can get lawyers to use our new product called Word 1.0. I said, okay, I'll take that meeting. We went up and wound up working for several years with Microsoft very closely as we're trying to find if lawyers would give up WordPerfect at the time, the dominant word processor, and switch to Word, they could work with Overdrive and have all these law books and law forms automatically be more efficient, some of Loree's original ideas. And so we did that, and they became great partners. I worked with a young product manager at the time by the name of Melinda French. She wound up marrying the boss, and I think you know they're both doing well. The company then was very invested in around the 2000. I'm sorry if I'm just going on, but this
is great. Yeah.
This is the story. Microsoft was trying to become a factor in mobile computing several times. They tried. This is a decade before the iPhone, but there were these things called PDAs. Apple had this product called Newton. There were Palm Pilots, and Microsoft was bringing out a mobile operating system called Windows CE Compact Edition. And so they then said, well, if we can get books and e-books on the Microsoft devices. So we spent late 90s through early 2000s building what was 10 years too early, a consumer e-book business, working with the New York publishers, the Random Houses, and the Simon & Schuster's, HarperCollins, building applications for these early generation devices. And the entire thing cratered during the dot-com crash of 2000, 2001. We had about 10 times Loree and I signed an agreement with a big company you all know, and we say, this is it. It wasn't it. Like when we were hired to build the e-commerce digital bookstore for Borders. Borders, they're like the second largest bookstore chain. You know, many of you may not even know who they were. Thanks to Microsoft, we were invited to build in our ebook application at the time to the single largest mobile handset phone company on the planet with 1 billion devices in the market. This is it. Nokia. That was just before the iPhone came out.
Right.
We're up in Canada and we go, this is it. We just signed BlackBerry. For that reason, because none of those really happen, we're never going to have a product that has the word berry in the name of it at Overdrive, because you spend on each one of those a year or two of engineering and cycles and go to market thinking this is it. It wasn't it. So I was down in the dumps about 2001, 02.
And I said to him, you have technology, you have content, you have relationships with publishers. Why don't you go to the American Library Association, talk to librarians? They might be interested in circulating the ebooks to their patrons. And he did.
And 20 years later now, we are celebrating, every month we have billions of end user sessions searching their local public library, their school, their academic, university, government, military, prison libraries all over the globe using the Overdrive technology. And because it is an entrepreneurial series, Libby, the app is free and the books are free. So each and every one of you here and listening, if you haven't met Libby yet, you can thank us later or thank Case Western Reserve Library School for inspiring Libby, the library reading app. We've been on an amazing journey for the last 20 years, building what is now the leading service used by public libraries all over the world. And more recently, when we adopted the mission of how we could be trusted partners to these unbelievable community institutions, nonprofits, supported by taxpayer funding, government funding. We started to attract, and today on campus we have well over 100 librarians, 50 licensed educators. We started to commit ourselves to a world enlightened by reading. And that's helped us then broaden our focus and specialize in the areas that have just been really rewarding for us as a company. And we now are the single largest supplier of how digital books, ebooks, and audiobooks are in classrooms with the Sora. That's a student reading app, which is available to students in K-12 or schools worldwide. So that's kind of a nutshell.
Awesome, thank you for that. No, beautiful story. So that sort of ended on touching one of the topics that is in the title and also that I wanted to talk about, which is sort of your social or mission-driven work. And so I was wondering, like, when that started being incorporated within Overdrive, and how was it there from the very beginning? I mean, it seemed like you guys were more focused on professional sort of digitization of books, and so sort of mapping out when did that start creeping into, I guess, the mission of Overdrive, and then eventually how did it become such an important part, and if you want to talk as well about your nonprofit and everything else.
Sure. Well, thanks, TC. I'll talk about the corporate side, and Loree can talk more on the family side, but from the earliest days, sitting in the basement on Superior Avenue of the Cleveland Public Library, we became really aware of the challenges that these unbelievable community servants were having. These are frontline folks that are just trying to support the community with access to books, learning, information, whether it's helping a student achieve success, that individual looking to up his career, connect with an opportunity, the importance of those public internet terminals in the central library in every branch, the business library. It's called the People's University for a good reason, because early in my career I was using that business library pre-internet when I was doing some of my other startups. So when we became exposed on a daily basis to the dedication of public librarians and the challenges and the problems they were trying to solve, we knew that it was going to change our entire perspective on how we were going to build and grow the business. We had to earn the trust, and we had to commit ourselves to the mission. And after we launched 20 years ago with Cleveland Public and went to a first library show back, and we started to see that Denver Public and heart of Silicon Valley, San Jose Public Library. We then signed an agreement with New York Public Library, and here are the iconic, world-renowned institutions of learning, and we understood that this was a pretty important role and opportunity and responsibility. And as we then leaned into what was the most important problems they were trying to solve. Yes, we had built a business for the publishers and the authors, so that if you were a fan of that adult fiction, romance, mystery, thriller, that was early adopters of ebooks, e-ink, Kindles, iPads and tablets. But it became pretty clear to us, if we were going to be successful, we really had to change the priority and what success looked like as defined by these public institutions. And we're still on that mission. And it was, I was at a philanthropic seminar in New York City about a decade ago, and I learned about this new movement called Certified B Corporations. And I came back to Loree Franklin, our Chief Operating Officer, and I would always come back and come up with big ideas and then walk away and say, please, build us a campus, I want this truck that goes around, the digital bookmobile. So I said, this is where we walk the walk. If we could qualify and go through a process of being, by an independent quasi-governmental agency, go through an intrusive audit of our business practices, our commitment to our communities, to the environment, to all stakeholders, fair business dealings, this could be a way that we can really earn the trust and demonstrate. And so we went through a process, and in 2017 we became a certified B Corporation at the time when it was still, it's a worldwide movement started by leaders at Patagonia and other companies. There were about 2,000 worldwide when we were certified. Now it's taken on quite a bit of momentum, and it's just been another way that allowed us to earn the right to be partners with the New York City Department of Education, providing access to books during the pandemic for 1 million children that would have normally been going to 4,300 buildings in all 5 boroughs. It gave us the right to work with the Library of Congress, with every department of the military, that we are committed to your mission, and it's been a really important part of our success. And on the home front, Loree can share with you a bit.
Certainly. We felt very, very fortunate that we've been successful in our business life, our personal life, and we felt very strongly that we wanted to give back to the communities. We both grew up with parents that were Holocaust survivors. They always emphasized that education was of prime importance, that was something nobody could ever take away from you. So when we looked to start doing something, we realized that literacy and the ability to read and have books available to you was primary to people's success in this world. So we started Believe in Reading. It's a nonprofit that gives grants to a variety of institutions, everything from prisons to migrant camps to libraries and schools. We only deal with print books, computers, aids for the elderly so they can read newspapers. It's been very successful. We give quite a few grants every year, and we really feel that it's something that we could sort of lift up these communities by doing.
Awesome. How have you balanced then these, and they're not necessarily competing, but the mission-driven work as well as the profit?
Well, I'm a volunteer at university hospitals, and I've heard from the amazing leadership at University Hospital, which is sharing a lot of territory with Case Campus here. There can be no mission without margin. So we've always, from early and kind of thrifty entrepreneurial beginnings, always understood that we have to be very good stewards of our capital, our resources, and yes, we've had unbelievable commercial success over the years, but we've made sure that we are constantly finding ways to leverage our commercial success to benefit all of our stakeholders. And all stakeholders first starts with our own team. I'm proud that we built a LEED certified campus here, just off 480 in transportation. And we've invested in the communities around us. And I'm wearing a pin today because something very near and dear to us. We're members of so many professional associations on the business. The American Libraries Associations and all of the school and educational, and we exhibit and meet with academics and the like. But in the last 2 years, there's been an unfortunate politically motivated series of attacks on access to books and readings for diverse voices, LGBTQ, the racial history of this nation, and unfortunately, it is so contrary to the mission we've been working and fighting side by side with academics, educators, school librarians, that every reader, every family, every student should be able to self-select the stories and the perspectives. And I'm wearing a pin that's called Unite Against Book Bans. Loree and I, our family, helped underwrite the American Library Association national effort called uniteagainstbookbans.org. The right to read, the right to, or protecting us from silencing voices and perspectives right now, unfortunately, is another area where it's a tricky area for the company because we do business in every state, and many of the states now, you see the headlines, some of these individual states are passing laws that are unthinkable for kids whose parents fled because books were being burned and people were being persecuted because of their perspectives. When they start taking Anne Frank off the shelf, it gets personal. So that's just another part of when you say balance, it's a blurry line.
But you're always, but I think the company is always advocating for better business models for our libraries. Steve is very strong in talking to the publishers, making sure they get the best value for their dollars.
Yeah, well, there's a blurry line because we're very fortunate that here in town we have about 550 team members, and everyone understands that we are fighting to provide access for all. And if you are learning English, if you are struggling with something that you need to know, the library should not be in any way ever challenged that the professional librarians and selectors and educators are not the most trustworthy stewards of what's important to support all readers and communities. And unfortunately, there's a lot of distraction, let's just call it.
Thank you for that powerful story. The next question is a slight pivot, so I feel slightly awkward since that was beautifully said. But focusing on sort of students, because we have some students in the room, do you have any recommendations for them or other aspiring or current entrepreneurs who are in the room that are either based on your own stories or the experiences that you've developed so far?
You're at such a fabulous university with so much resources. Take advantage of every special program they offer. You just don't, you know, I keep rereading about every 3 quarters, Think Again by Adam Grant. And I'm a very lucky man because I get access to every book published. I don't finish them all, but boy, we check out a lot. And if I'm on a wait list, I'll take the audio while I'm driving or the E. You have to really embrace what you don't know, and by exposing yourself to as many different things while you have the resources, and that's programming at your library. It's these kind of series. Just take advantage of it. You don't know how something you saw or heard or experienced is going to give you that inspiration for whether it's a passion that you gravitate to, because most college freshmen and sophomores are still trying out what I selected a major, but is this it? And you really need to take advantage of this time to just immerse yourself in as many opportunities to learn new things and be curious.
Awesome. Loree, do you have anything to add?
No, I think he's covered that, and I think the other thing is trying different things, and if you fail, try something else. Sometimes that failure will give you knowledge that'll help in the next endeavor.
Awesome. Thank you.
TC, you're right. I think we're at the halfway point. We'll get some audience questions. Is that good?
Perfect.
I think Adrian's going to ask the first one.
Hello, my name is Adrian. I'm a 4th-year physics major here. First off, I just want to thank you guys for coming. And my question is, how do you think AR or VR may affect Overdrive in the future?
Thank you for the question. I've been testing and investigating AR and virtual reality applications. Right now, it's pretty early. And as you can see from Meta and Oculus, and I try everything. I'll buy any gadget because who knows? And we've envisioned the potential of bringing a story, a historical scene to life, and giving you that immersive experience. Everything that we do with our digital reading technology and the science of reading is trying to engage. Reader engagement is extraordinarily exciting. Now, all of the earliest experiments we've had with trying to supplement a good book, a good story, or a piece of educational content with VR. It's not ready to scale. Because we believe that because of our footprint, we don't want to introduce something that only certain more affluent readers can really benefit. So if we do something in that scale, it will be when every student walking into any public library can have access to those kind of materials before we're going to lean into it too heavily. Now, having said that, because we are working in a variety of R&D modes, we're just very, very curious and interested. But right now, it's the lack of affordability to make it something that, you know, it's not just for the households who can afford it. So it's a little too early for us to lean in.
Hello. Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for your talk and speech today. It's really moving, and especially the social aspect. I'm a recent alumnus from the College of Arts and Science and Weatherhead, and I'm leading my own social nonprofit right now, so it hits more right now. My question is, you guys partnered with Microsoft. It worked but didn't work, and then the Nokia. So all these highs and then even lower lows, it hurts. And I've also experienced that, really close to having a partnership, and then everything just falls through. So how do you continue to bounce back? And I know your wife brought up, like, hey, try this, but still it always is a tough pill to swallow.
Well, every time we hit a roadblock, we were still in a stronger position as a result of that business opportunity. Did we learn some lessons? Hell yes. My agreements, every iteration, I got more money up front. I wasn't only taking things on the back end. I was saying, I know you're the biggest, wonderful global leader in your market. I've been in this story before. I at least want to get guaranteed. So I think the business learnings made us better equipped to vet and commit to projects that even if it didn't pan out with the big upside we would share in. And then usually, being that we're at heart a software and technology team, we kept improving our IP, and we kept building more areas of domain expertise and competence. And those are building blocks that you then take. We know how to do full text indexing, search and retrieval for CD-ROM. Now maybe we can take this, you know, everything makes you stronger as you go to the next. And we did make a major pivot when we said, forget B2C e-commerce and retail. Maybe we can build service for institutional users to serve their audiences. So, but every one of those, there was a learning that either made us better business people or gave us a stronger portfolio for the next opportunity.
Yes, hi. Thank you also for your presentation. My name is Chris Laszlo. I'm on the faculty here. And with colleagues, we've been talking, like everyone I guess is talking, about artificial general intelligence and natural language models and how that may change a lot of different professions, from coding to medicine to et cetera. What is your thinking about how it might change the way students read or access books or search for knowledge to be able to pursue their education?
Thank you, Chris. Not an hour doesn't go by where there's not a new story, application, or just interesting experiment or evolution on using AI technology, whether it's ChatGPT, Bard, or the competing platforms. As it relates to reading, I don't believe it will generally change the science of how we as humans use our senses to interpret symbols on text on a screen or ink on a page. That goes down to a very primal level, and this is benefit of 25 years ago working with Microsoft on the science of how people read and learn. We do pattern recognition. We recognize words. We process phrases. I don't think it's going to change the casual reading. I don't think it's going to change how we obtain basic information. Could it be an alternate source? Could it be a digest? Could it be a aid? I just came from a week at the London Book Fair last week. We were exhibiting and meeting with our British publishing partners. And so many of the authors and the creator community, they're really in arm because of the generative AI. And there's a lot of challenges for the intellectual property rights and patents and copyright and trademark. If they based it on your core source data and AI created a derivative, who owns it? I mean, some of this stuff we'll be back at the law school at another session. But to answer your question, so I told this publisher, because the publishers and the authors, the narrators, we are big in the audiobooks, and the professional narrators are totally freaked out. Apple introduced and we distributed digital narration. It's not computer voice, it's not text to speech. It's actually sampling human voices, and then with that machine learning, using it to process new text. It's in the voice of that human, but we're calling it digital narration. It is really freaking out the creator community, the author, publishers, agents, and the like. But I said to the publishers, it's a tool. I love power tools. Sometimes I have to assemble something and I'm doing this with the little twisty. Where's my drill? I love power tools. Everyone should embrace AI, experiment with it, play with ChatGPT and Bard and whatever your flavor is, and use it. It is an amazing tool. And I could right now be making a limerick about the Veale Institute while we're, in about 9 seconds. So I'm not fearful it's going to impact the way humans read text or enjoy audiobooks or listen to a narrated story. But it has so much opportunity to unlock comprehension and assessment and testing. And we have a number of AI projects in-house. We've started with machine learning about a year or two ago. Probably some of your grads are working on our teams there. It's really an exciting time to have access to every word, every image, every sound in every book and copyright for our team to say, what if? Just imagine. It's an exciting time. But I still think, as I said, whether it's on a screen, in your ears, or in print, a great book is a great story. A crappy book sucks, no matter how you're consuming it. You know this book is... So we're not going to improve bad writing. But it's going to be fun to see. And right now, we have some challenges because we have suppliers who are trying to pass off AI-created, original works. And we'll see how that shakes out. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Kir Nguyen. I'm right here as the Veale Snyder Fellow, teaching by Michael Gilbert and Mindy right here. And our course is focusing on innovation and entrepreneurship. So my question for you is, if you can take us back to the 80s where you just start your career and the business itself, like right now for us, we are very, to be honest, we are very tempted to follow that corporate, work where they pay a lot for us. But as a person who has the entrepreneurship in me, sometimes I have to think about if I make the decision to jump and follow my business, will there be like a safety net out there for me? Should I jump or not? Should I just follow the corporates and climb the corporate ladders, and then maybe someday I can pursue my dream later? Because as a first-gen college student, people of colors, I mean, while I want to pursue my business, there is a lot of risk and sometimes calculated risk, but the question for you is, what are your advice for young entrepreneurship out there who want to follow their dreams?
Thank you. Well, each situation is unique. It's always good to hedge your bets. Loree got a full-time job at Case Western Reserve University. Health insurance, check. Steve could keep trying and failing in these business startups. Okay, truth be told. She was getting a paycheck thanks to Case Western Reserve University. Thank you. So, if you have the ability and the desire, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to take ideas you have. And I will tell you something from having built and released. We have at the Overdrive headquarters, we have these glass cases, and it's the software museum in history. Most of them are products no one ever heard of, but we proudly built them with the intention that this was it. And it wasn't. But what I learned from all of those experiences, doing something cool and showing off a really interesting app is valueless. Find a problem, a pain point, and solve it. You know what built our public library success? Nobody knew what ebooks were in 2002-03. Nobody wanted to download a book and bring it up on your desktop monochrome PC. That was a science project. Thank you, Cleveland Public Library. That wasn't what made the business roll across the country and the world. While we were there, the librarians were saying, every day at every branch, we open up these drop boxes where people drop off their books, and out comes a flood of these plastic clamshell cases that people who borrow digital audiobooks on cassettes or 10 CDs. Before MP3, audio was bundled on a format called Redbook. A CD, a compact disc, could hold 70 minutes of audio. That's it. Now, you know, with MP3, you could put gigs. So if you were a senior coming every week to borrow an audiobook, or you listened it in your CD player in your car or your Sony Walkman, every morning the library opened up and out spilled an avalanche of these cases. The librarians had to pick them all up, open every case, and if it's a Tom Clancy novel with 12 hours, there could be 12 separate discs. We have to check, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are they all in? If one disc is scratched, that book is useless. It's out of circulation. We were in there showing our ebook, how cool is this, opens on a screen, and they said, if you can create a digital audiobook, everybody will want it. We hadn't done an audiobook for the 10 years before that. But we were in the library and we saw a problem and a pain point. That's why we rolled across the US and then around the world. Singapore, Toronto, we're in China, we're in every country. But it was, we solved a problem with inventory management and circulating media. My first ad for our service was, borrow, download, never lost, never late, never scratched, no late fees. We solved a problem, and that solving a problem every step of our business growth was the catalyst that made it a success or of real value, where people would say, yes, please, and more. So that's my advice.
Great, Kit. So we have some Zoom questions. Brian Saxton, I don't know if you're able to unmute. You want to ask your question. If you are, go ahead. If not, I'll ask it for you. Great. Thanks, Brian. Did you want to unmute, Brian? I can see you were trying a sec. If not, I can read it for you. I will go for it. So Brian asks, you've talked about the pivots you've made. How do you know the difference between an idea that just hasn't had enough time and one that won't ever work?
Thank you for that question. You really never know the answer to the latter. Because if you believe, you eventually, the weight of your peers and coworkers just wear you down and say, give it up already. Because you have to be the champion of your ideas. The reality is that you have to balance the priorities and pick and choose your battles. So as a young entrepreneur who then was doing multiple rounds of early funding, as we were building the business, it was impossible to raise startup money for a software company in the 80s in Cleveland, Ohio. If I was building a strip mall, maybe. But so that's why we opened an office in Seattle. So you really have to just believe the mentors and your peers and those that you trust. And even if in your heart of hearts you say, I know it will work and I can see it as a vision, you never really give up. You just have to yield and say, there's only so many hours in the day and so many things that we can be the world's greatest at. We did over a decade ago, our chief operating officer, we did a retreat for executives using Jim Collins' Good to Great, Built to Last series of business books. I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Moore for marketers, HarperCollins available in Libby, all of these, they're all available. And so many times from that retreat, my executives and me would put back to me the lesson we learned. We committed that if we do something, we believe and we are committed to be the best in the world at it. I want to be the best of the world, how a reader could benefit and enjoy a story from a public library. Best in the world, how a student can benefit their academic outcome from access to a book. Whatever it is in that category. So very often I would get cornered and they go, do you really think you're going to be the best in the world at that harebrained idea? And sometimes they are absolutely correct. No, move on. So I don't know if there's ever a real, I store all these ideas saying one day, time will be better, opportunity, or there'll be an interested party. So, thank you.
Hi, Bob Sopko, LaunchNet. I was with Steve and Loree 2001 when the first library came aboard. So I do remember that and Steve's tenacity and just going forward. And we had a question over here before, should you go to a corporate route or not? It really leans into this statement I'd like you and Loree to share. Because Steve, I remember it's like, he would say why are they still building book warehouses? They're not going to need those. So, why did the publishers or the distributors, why weren't they the ones who built this? And why did somebody who had a small group of 14 people, now 500 and some people, why did you beat the publishers and also the distributors at their own game?
Well, thanks, Bob. And I've had the great pleasure of visiting so many of the CWRU entrepreneurs the last several years at the Consumer Electronics Show. And it was a great presence led by Bob and other members of the university. We approached all the traditional legacy book distributors. We went to all of them who were selling print books, physical media, to our nation's public libraries and schools. I went to them 20 years ago, and multi-billion-dollar companies, some 100 and more years old. And we said, we would be great partners to help you go into the digital book future of libraries and schools. And every one of them said, we don't need you. We're the multi-billion-dollar legacy supplier of billions of dollars to every library. I said, okay. We wound up saying, it was the best move. Nobody ever took us up on our offer to partner or be joint venture. Because we said, we'll do it ourselves, which we did. One of the billionaire owners who still is in his company, I see him at industry events, and all he does is like, oh, why didn't I listen to you? Several of the other vendors, we had the opportunity to either acquire, whatever, because it wasn't in their DNA. They were really good at setting up centralized warehouses, distribution centers, and moving pallets into warehouses and processing orders and shipping boxes. They were great at that, better than anyone. That was another smart thing we did over the years. We got invited by publishers and warehouses and book retailers who wanted us to get involved with print and digital this or that. And my engineering and CTO and business executive leaders, they said, we made a really great series of decisions saying no to some amazing big partnerships because we wanted to be the best at the digital media side of that equation and just make that our singular focus. So to answer your question, we did approach them, and I think to their, to our benefit, they passed on partnering with this startup company in Cleveland. Yeah.
Kodak could have done digital, but it was going to destroy their business, so they passed.
Well, each of those companies brought out a digital library, a digital book, a digital this and that. We're doing a lot better than any of them. Well, that's being modest. Most of them have gotten out of the space, or it's insignificant as far as market share.
Yeah, I just want to share a really interesting thing. As a student, we move a lot. Like when we have a book, every time when we move apartment or we move to next city, it's really hard for us to carry out the book. Especially, I come from China. When I go back to China, by law, I only allowed to bring 10 books. So all other things, I can't. How do we think about something can make the knowledge more globally, like people, wherever they come from, where they will go, they can all share the book, share the knowledge, especially the book they already purchased. So I don't know if we can help make the paper book to digital, so carry. That's one. Another thing is very interesting. So I recently was in my another fellowship reading a book. So people said, just pick the version you are more comfortable to read. So I say, okay, my first language is Mandarin, so I pick a simple Mandarin, simple Chinese. And then I realized I cannot really understand this in Chinese. Because the translation, I don't, it's so hard. So I bought another one, original one in English. So everywhere I carry, and I have to carry 2 books together, compare them together to understand that. So, as the AI is getting popular, is there any way we can help, translate the knowledge?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And where in China are you from?
It's Tianjin, near the capital.
Okay. We service the Capital Library, Beijing. We're in about 30 provinces working for the provincial libraries and the children's libraries. And it is an amazing thing about having a library card gives you access to all the books. And you should be getting a Capital Library card and besides your university and your US cards. AI is now capable of doing on-the-fly translations of voice to text, text to voice, translations. We're in the midst of system testing a variety of tools that will allow on the fly for you to say which language you want that in. And constantly the AI and the machine learning will constantly improve it as it gets more and more with idioms and local cultures and popular references. So that's going to happen. The businesses of language learning and translation products will be completely commoditized by cloud-based AI services. Yeah, and if you're disappointed, look at who the publisher was on the bad translation, and don't buy from that. Don't buy that brand or that imprint. You know, quality matters. So these are the rights that may have been sold. They may have used an outsourced translation service, and they don't have the ability, even the publisher, to proof it or read it themselves. I've embarrassed myself many, many times by using poor language translation. And AI is going to revolutionize all that because we'll keep getting better.
It's a really old version. I thought after I read it, I thought, oh, I should make a translation by myself, make another version.
We are selling a lot of bilingual Mandarin and English, English and Spanish, so many titles now. And also they are read-along. So for the English language learner, they can see the word highlighted, hear it, see on one side of the page English, on the other side Mandarin. You know, in the New York City public schools, they speak over 100 languages. And that's one reason I go to the international book shows. If you have any friends that are writing anything in Haitian Creole, I need to meet them. Yeah, that's kind of a small catalog for us right now. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're at time, but
Please.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
I think
Thank you.
together, if we can all thank them. And I'll pass it over to Michael.
Great. Stephen, Loree, thank you. This was wonderful. Great to have you back on campus. Great to have conversation to all the students and faculty and staff and colleagues that joined here at KSL. And Yolanda, once again, thank you for your partnership. And thanks for everybody who joined on Zoom and LinkedIn Live. Our next event, it's funny, our semester is coming to an end. Our next event is, and last one actually of our speaker series this semester, is on orthodontics, dentistry, and AI with a colleague from the School of Dental Medicine, Tariq El-Shabini. And that'll be Thursday, May 4th at noon. And that's part of our AI series that's curated in part with Mike Fisher, who's the former CTO of Etsy. So thank you again, Stephen, Loree. Thanks for everybody joining on LinkedIn. Good luck on your final exams, everyone, and the papers that you're supposed to write in my class. And we'll see you all soon.
Okay, thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much. Thank you, Loree.